Okay, so here we go. It is now time to take our flower parts that we made. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. We have skelegons in them, but we need to set this up so we can create some animation with it. All right, so we'll send these objects over to layout, and then we will do parenting or constraining. All right, so 3, 1, 2, 3 objects looks good. Remember to send something over to layout. It has to be saved. If it's not saved, it doesn't exist, okay? So if some of you aren't saving things and you try to send them to layout, it doesn't work unless you save it, okay? So this has been saved, great. That little white arrow in the upper right-hand corner, if you click on it, drop-down list, okay? So we can switch, synchronize, or send, all right? We don't want to switch, it'll just send us back over there. We want to actually send, okay? So I'm going to hit send object to layout, okay? And here I am, I'm in layout, okay? This is our movie set. This is where we animate, make things, film things, light things, all right? But to make our life easier to animate this flower, we're gonna rig it or set it up to be animated, okay? So here we are. A couple things. Tools are gonna be in the left, tabs are on the top, okay? We're pretty much gonna be under the modify tab and the setup tab. So modify, just like if you pop over here in Modeler, and go to modify, same things, okay? Moving, rotate, stretching, and sizing. This time I'm gonna switch, okay? I don't wanna send this back over or I'll have two objects, so I'll just switch back over. Okay, so modify is the same thing as modeler. So those of you that are confused, it's the exact same shortcut, exact same commands, okay? So we're gonna modify, meaning we're gonna transform these, whether move, rotate, or scale. I'm gonna look down at the bottom of my screen here. Objects, bones, lights, and cameras. We're only going to work with objects and bones, all right? Auto key. This is a tricky one. If auto key is on, it records everything that you're doing, and sometimes that's good and sometimes it's bad. For right now, I'm going to leave it on, but at some point I might want to turn it off if I'm kind of like playing with my rig, because I might not want to record any animation or any keyframes, all right? So let's get this started. Auto key is on. I need to set things up. To select these objects, guys, you can just click on the individual object. We have 3 objects, so click, click, and click. But sometimes that's kind of hard to do. So you have another option. If you look down at the bottom of your screen, it says current item. You can click, and there's a little drop-down list there, so you can see the flower. And remember when we name those over in Modeler, ped, pot, and stem? So there we go, ped, pot, and stem. Looks pretty good. They're easy to see. They're easy to identify, so it should be easy to work with. I would suggest if you look at this current item and keep working to your right, in the area like right here, there's a little white rectangle. If you hit that, it's going to open up a current item object list, okay? That comes in handy. And those are available for bones, lights, and cameras, all right? So here are our objects, and what we have to do is we have to figure out, like, how should this be set up? How should we rig this? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pedal object, and I'm gonna kind of move it up so I can see it. It looks pretty good, but it's kind of tiny. It looks a little weird. I don't really like it. So that's fine. If it's too small, remember, modify. I think in this case, I'm gonna size this up, make it really big just to make it kind of funny looking. I don't know why not. Again, like, it's your flower. You make what you want, all right? As long as it can move and it looks decent, I'm happy. Okay, so flower looks pretty good, but we wanna do some setting up. So a couple things. We want to make sure that if we're going to deform something with bones, we change the object subdivision order to last, okay? So what does that mean? Well, what I would do is select all these items, so you have all 3 objects selected, and the property button, or P, if you hit that, it's going to show you the properties, P, there it is, the properties of the objects that you have selected, okay? So since all 3 objects are selected, I can edit them all at once, okay? Subdivision order, it's right here. And I'm going to make that last. Okay, so what is subdivision order? Subdivision order is this. When you look at an object, by default, it displays it at a sub-patch level of 3. So the computer is dividing each polygon 3 times. Okay, so you have to realize if when you divide it once, it takes 1 polygon and makes it 4. So, you know, if you multiply that 3 times, you know, it creates a lot of vertices, and that's what we need. So if I would change that to 0, this is really what we made, okay? And it doesn't look very good. It's not going to deform very well. So we're not going to do that. We're going to leave that at 3, but that's just what it means, okay? So it's just saying, hey, when the computer divides this object, when do you want it to do it? And in this case, you're better off having it set to last. It just deforms better. It looks better. Okay, it'll still work, but it won't look that good unless you choose last. So first step, select all your objects, property window, subdivision order, last. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I can close out that window. Next, I need to go through and take the objects with skelegons and convert them to bones. So I'll do the petal first. So I'll grab that item. I'll go to the Setup tab, and I'll find the word CVT skelegons. That means convert skelegon. So if I hit that button, you'll see at the bottom here, 24 bones were created. That's great. So there are the bones. They look pretty good. Next, I'm going to do the same thing to my stem. So I'll select my stem, and I'll hit that button again. Setup tab, CVT skelegon. Good. So I have petals, and I have a stem, and it has bones in it. That's great. So now this is fine, except for a couple issues. So check this out. I'm going to turn off auto key because I don't want the computer recording this. Turn it off. I have this bone chain, which is great. So if I click on a bone, it'll activate it. And then if I right mouse click, it'll select the whole hierarchy. So the parent and all its children. Cool. So if I want to rotate this or hit Y on my keyboard, wow, okay, cool. I can now deform this. That's great. But the problem is when the stem goes, I'm pretty sure the top of the flower should go with it. All right, so that's my indicator that I need to do some parenting or some constraining. Okay, so this top object here, all right, it needs to be parented to a bone inside of that stem for this to work. All right, so I move these things all over the place, but since auto key wasn't on, nothing was recorded. So if I take my scrub bar here and I just move it, you're gonna see everything's gonna snap back into place. Okay, so we look pretty good. So it's time for us to start working. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and figure out my parent-child relationship. So I know that there's a bone inside of the stem that I need this top petal object to be parented to. So this one gets a little confusing, so try to pay attention, and I'll reiterate myself a couple times and make sure you get it. As far as views, this is fine. I'm in the camera view. You can click up here and you can change any view that you want. It's kind of up to you. The keyboard shortcuts are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. When you hit that, you'll see these will change. All right, so pick the view that works best for you. Generally, for us, we're used to working in the perspective view. So again, if you want to stay in perspective view, just like in Modeler, you can orbit around your object and take a look at it. It looks pretty good. Okay, so what I want to do next is I need to decide, okay, what do I want the parent of this object to be? So pretty easy. I know that this bone, click, right here, let me zoom in on it, you can see a little bit better. This guy right here, that's going to be the parent. All right, so how do I set this up? There are two options. All right, the first way is to just hit M for motion, and you get your motion options. And there's a little drop down list. Hey, who do you want your parent to be? But look at that, it's a nightmare. Look at all those names. If it's a really simple scene, you can just hit M. But for us, I think we'll do the second option. So I'll close out of that. The second option is this. If you're under the Setup tab, which we still should be, and you look on the left at your tools, there's an option to store selected. So to parent, you select the parent. Okay, there it is. It's highlighted. Then you come over to your tabs here, or your tool, sorry, and you hit Store Selected. So you want to store your parent. Okay, so the parent is stored in system memory. Great. Then we want to select your child. In this case, it's going to be this guy. So select the child. So with the child selected, I'm going to come back. Right underneath stored selected is an assign option. So I'll click that. I want to assign that stored parent, okay, stored parent, to be my child's parent. So underneath this drop-down list, I'm just going to choose parent, okay? Cool. So this object, I can move the child independently of the parent. All right, just going to put it in place here. But the cool thing now, and oops, I didn't have auto key on, so if I don't have auto key on and I accidentally do this, it's going to shoot back into place. So I'm going to move that down, and auto key's not on, but I can always just hit the create key button and just make a manual keyframe. So I want to record that into place. Looks pretty good. And next, if I go ahead and click on some of these bones and I rotate them, cool, look. There's now a parent-child relationship, okay? It's a constraint. So the bones are being moved and the child is going with them, okay? It looks good. And the cool thing is I can come back here with this object and I can kind of rotate these around. All right, good. All right, so that's one way to parent things. So I think I'm going to do that again. And where I need to parent again is this. So my pot can run around, but if the flower is in the pot, shouldn't the stem go with the pot? Yeah, it probably should. So again, auto key is off, so nothing's being recorded here. So it's time for me to select my parent, and that's going to be the pot. It's selected. So again, store your parent. Next, select your child. Okay, with the child selected, come down to your assignment and assign that stored item as the child's parent. Okay, if this worked correctly, look, I now have this hierarchy. All right, the petal is parented to the stem, and the stem is parented to the pot. So when the pot moves, the stem goes with it. When the stem moves, the petal goes with it. All right, so there we go. It's a pretty good rig. We're almost done. But what about these petals at the top? Let's take a look at them. Now we're going to look at weight mapping. Okay, so since the ball and the petals are all on the same layer, the computer's treating this as one object, okay? Even though it's several objects, the computer's treating it as one, and that's fine. We're going to use, let me zoom in here. We're going to use these bones to deform our petal, but here's the problem. If I click on a bone and I rotate it, look what's happening. Remember, these bones are magnets. That's all they are. They affect vertices or points. So anything that's close to them, they're going to affect. All right, so that ball is technically pretty close to it. All right, that's a problem, but we have a solution. The solution is we added a weight map. All right, so what we can do here is, watch this, right mouse click on these bones. So I'm selecting the bottom bone, which is the master or parent of all these other bones, and they're in a chain, so I have them all selected. And then I can hit properties. Okay, so again, we're back in that property window. So in the property window, you're going to see a section that says bone weight map, and it's going to be set to none. All right, so you need to tell the computer, hey, you know what? Click. Why don't I assign those bones to only affect the weight map? And we called it PED. So only petal. So look, when I move these now, great, they're only going to affect the petal itself. And I can kind of rotate these on either my pitch, which is the green handle, my heading, which is the red, or this blue guy is your bank, okay? And if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see H, P, and B. And again, under modify, if you can't remember Y as your shortcut to rotate, you can just go to modify and you can start rotating or moving. Now keep in mind, our bones don't move, all right? In your body, your skeleton, it doesn't move. You just kind of, you rotate on hinges, and that's kind of how we have this thing set up. It's going to rotate on hinges, okay? So good. This is done. We are finished. Last but not least, I think what we need to do is we need to save this this rig. So File, Save Scene. Okay, so we're going to save this scene, and navigate to somewhere that makes sense to you. This is a whole bunch of other stuff I don't want to get into. So I guess I will jump to my desktop. I'll make a new folder for us. I'll call it Flower, and in the Flower folder, I will call this Flower _RIG for rig. Looks pretty good. I'll hit save, and I am finished. So this is kind of done. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to add some surface detail to this. Okay, that'll be the next video. So Flower has been built. We've added skelegons, and now we've set it up, and we can definitely do some animation with this when it's time to animate.